Ambushes is when you are taken prisoner, when you are taken captive, when somebody lays in hiding or a group lays in hiding and captures you and holds you for ransom. I'd like to translate that into a little bit more of a contemporary language, because we feel that we're ambushed when life conspires against us. As shamans, we know that when we are in right relationship in Aini, that the universe actually will conspire in our behalf. It will go out of its way to conspire on our behalf. When we're not in right relationship, we feel that the universe is actually conspiring against us. I remember one time seeing an interview with Werner Herzog, the German film director. He had just completed his movie called Fitzcarraldo, an amazing movie about determination and how obstinate the human being can be. And it was filmed in the Amazon, where they actually took a ferry boat over a mountain from one river to the next. And people died in the set. It was really quite terrible. Filmed years ago with Klaus Kinski. And Herzog said, "The jungle hates me. The animals despise me. The Indians hate me. God hates me." Everything had gone wrong in that set. And this is how Herzog felt. In reality, he was so out of alignment. He was so out of right relationship that the universe had turned against him. Everything he did went wrong. This is kind of what we call the Midas touch. Remember King Midas? Everything that he touched turned to gold. And he thought, how fantastic. Look at this. Everything I touch becomes precious. And then he tried to have a drink of water, and the glass and the water turned into gold. He tried to eat his food, and the food turned into gold. This is the universe conspiring against you. Everything you turn to goes bad. And we've all experienced periods like this. We feel that whatever step we take, we're going to go into a trap and an ambush, and we're going to be taken hostage by that situation, and we're going to need to, pay a dear price to break free from it. When you feel that the universe is totally adversarial, you know that you have come out of Aini. And at that point, what we do is to return to Aini. Let me rephrase this. Ambushes are when we're not responding to our calling from spirit. Many times I'll have a patient come to my office who will want me to help him heal from a difficult diagnosis, a physical illness. And I'll say to them, the way that we can accelerate your healing is for you to respond to your calling. Use your pain, your conflict, to get you closer to God, to bring you closer to that calling from spirit. Let me take you to one of the biblical stories that we all know, which is the story of Jonah. Jonah was called by God. Jonah was an old man at this point, and he was happy with his grandchildren and playing cards with his neighbors and having a glass of wine in the evening with his beloved. And God says to him, "Jonah, the people of Nineveh have lost their way. And I need you to go to Nineveh and preach my word. Bring them back to me. Bring them back to God." And Jonah says to God, but I'm an old man. Why don't you find somebody who's better suited for this task? And God says, "No, I'm calling you. I'm calling you to come and bring my people back to me." Jonah was called on a mission. He had a calling from God. And he says, "No way." And he gets on the next boat going to Italy, crossing the Mediterranean. And the Mediterranean can get quite fierce and stormy. And the ship is caught in one of these storms and they're being battered by the waves and by the wind. And everybody on board knows that somebody has denied God's call. And Jonah admits that is him. And they throw him overboard. And the minute they throw him overboard, the seas become calm again. Meanwhile, Jonah is not only swimming in the Mediterranean, but now he gets swallowed by a whale. He gets swallowed by a whale, and we've all seen the pictures of Jonah inside the belly of the whale trying to light a candle to get a little bit of light. He's in this dark and stench-filled stomach of this whale who swims back to where he came from and takes him to the shores of Nineveh and spits him out onto the shores of where he was meant to go to begin with, back to Nineveh to preach the word of God. And he does very successfully. When we hear the call from Spirit and we say yes to it, when we are in Aini, remember, Aini doesn't only mean right relationship. Aini means to live in a state of yes with life. To live in that state of yes continually with Spirit, so that you don't have to wait for Spirit to ask you to go on your calling and on your mission, but you're there already because you live in a state of yes. So when you say yes to your calling, the universe begins to conspire on your behalf. When you keep postponing your calling, at that point, we become sick. And our sickness is not only a physical sickness, our soul becomes sick, our heart becomes ill, and we lose our way. And we feel at that point that life is waiting for us to ambush us. No matter where we go and where we try to run, we're going to be swallowed by a whale, or we're going to be eaten by a jaguar, or we're going to be taken advantage of. So we need to come back to our calling. And this is the key for delivering ourselves, for freeing ourselves from these ambushes that catch us by surprise, and they hold us hostage frequently for many years. You can spend a very long time in that dark place inside the belly of your whale. You can spend years and years in there trying to find the light, only to end up being spit out where you should have gone freely a long time ago. And Jonah, of course, was spit out on this beach full of whale goo and digestive juices and having to clean himself up after a horrible journey. We don't have to go the horrible way. We don't have to go the way of extreme hardship and disease and difficulty to say yes to Spirit. And whenever I have somebody coming to me that says, help me with this problem in my life, I ask them, what is your calling that you are avoiding right now? That you don't have enough time, enough sleep, enough money. I remember I used to say to Spirit, I used to say, well, when my children are grown, my children are little right now, when they grow up, I'll say yes to my calling. Or when I get enough sleep, or when I have enough money, or when I retire from my job, or maybe next year, I'll say yes to my calling from Spirit. And then you end up in the belly of the whale. You end up being held hostage by your own denial of your calling. So these are the classical ambushes when the universe turns against you. And if you try to deal with them in real life, you're going to be fighting enemies and you're going to be trying to avoid danger, spending a tremendous amount of energy that you could be investing in saying yes. Now, saying yes to Spirit is absolutely terrifying. because you know that your life and your journey your life is going to be turned upside down. You're going to be embarking on a journey that you feel is so much bigger than you are. But this is the only path, the only way out. Everything else is treating the symptoms and not the cause. And this is where we can step in as medicine men and women to help our loved ones find their way back to spirit, find their way to a calling. Our premise is that every one of us has a sacred calling. And when we deny that calling, when we abandon that calling, when we don't remain true to our calling, then life becomes adversarial. We keep meeting adversity, obstacles, and resistance, and even physical and emotional disease. And the way through it is not only to do the illuminations and to clear the imprints and to heal the ancestors, but to say yes and to be true to your calling. And then the universe again begins to conspire on your behalf. But of course, to say yes to our calling, we need to go back to working on our map and in our compass. We need the map and the compass so that we can navigate through dangerous waters fearlessly while saying yes to spirit.